Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you so very much for joining our stream today. Today, we are going to be streaming the Argonaut Invitational Cup #1 for you. I'm your color caster, I'm War, and I am accompanied with my play-by-play caster.
Rainy Sticks. I am here today, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here and have the opportunity to cast this amazing series. I believe it is between Ragnarok, Thor, and CSU Vikings White. It is going to be an interesting match today.
Oh yeah, I'm excited and I am ready to go. It's been a while since I've gotten a cast, and from what I've been told, it's been a while since we've done a stream on Hyperion as well. It's been about a year or something since the last tournament, and I'm super excited to be here and be a part of it. It's going to be a really fun stream, and I'm looking forward to getting started.
And I mean, it makes it all that more. It makes it all that more special that we are here today casting this as well.
And the team is going to be versing. We're going to be playing with CSU Vikes White today. We have Winter on damage, CBT Junior on tank, Swagmaster on support, Stargaze Bog, and Nevi in a bag as flex.
Yeah, and for the side of Ragnarok Thor, we are going to have Fresh Crew, Soapy, and Hatter on the damage DPS role. Tank is going to be CVS Pharmacy. Support is going to be Rook and Lightning Girl.
Funny enough, we're
So
going
our first
into.
map.
Oh, go ahead.
Our first map here going to be the Lijiang. It's a traditional first map. It is the series opener for a map, and it can tell you a lot about the team, especially with meta changing this quickly. I believe it was 3 or so days since the patch. It's going to be super interesting to see how these teams adapt to try to play the map. You gotta have a Lucio. It's so traditional. Every patch, no matter what, on Lijiang, there's been a Lucio to get you to point faster, and it's typically aided by a sim, but that could totally change. Maybe these teams don't think Lucio's the move, but Lucio Moira, from my understanding, is a very strong comp. I think it's going to be played here. I think it's almost a necessity to play it here.
And you know what? You really hit the nail right on the head there. The Lucio Mafia absolutely dominates Lijiang Tower. He is in every single game because he is so strong. The ability to just reposition and completely go around either the left or the right side and completely throw off the enemy team is incredibly valuable. And that's not even talking about the crazy rollouts and the boops that you can get, like especially early on. If your Lucio player is really good at those rollouts, if you get a pick right before the fight starts, you get first point, man. It's as simple as that.
It actually is. I mean, this map is so environmental that trying to take coast or trying to take bridge just doesn't work if they have a Lucio. And if they do, you need a Lucio of your own to speed past, or you need something to block that initial boop. And honestly, we could totally see a Pharah here too. I've been seeing a lot of Pharah in my ranked play, and I think it's even more valuable that you can play with the environment even more to try to boop a team off or try to just get an early pick off on somebody who's kind of AFK walking.
It's interesting. I haven't really seen a lot of Farah since her recent rework, but who knows? Maybe we'll see some in tonight's stream. And honestly, I would welcome it. I'm curious to see how that plays out. But enough about Farah. We're going into the team comps now. Both teams have a Lucio as expected. Both teams have a Moira as expected. No surprises there. And both teams, we have CVS Pharmacy on the Ramatra, and we have CPT Junior on the JQ, which means that both these teams are going to be scrapping. They're going to be brawling, and they are going to be fighting. We're talking fist to fist for pretty much the whole game. It's going to be a constant power struggle and a seesaw to see who can get these first few points. We've got the Sim TP onto point. It's a really great start so far.
Yeah, and that is just aided by the Maywall immediately getting a pick onto Captain Junior there. The Ramatra going Nemesis form, just able to shred them down. That was wonderfully executed there by Thor. I mean, that was just picture perfect. That was everything you could have wanted.
Yeah, it was lethal, man. They got in there quick, and they got stuff done. They were in there like swimwear. We have May over here controlling the chokehold as well, which is going to be another big factor in Thor's strength as a team. They have so much control. They have so much pressure and dominance with the Sim turrets, the May slow, the May wall, the Ramatra E. Like, they have a lot of utility to work with.
Yeah, and you don't even have to, you gotta focus more on the big picture idea here. It's not just going to be the May, but it's going to be the close range abilities of this entire team. The Ramatra, the Sim Beam, just able to shred down targets beautifully there. Fresh Q getting a 2-piece.
That's my favorite sim combo right there, holding M1 and letting him do the rest. Really nice stuff there, honestly, though. Yeah, as much as I have trashed on sim before in my previous streams and whatnot, she is really valuable as a DPS player because she has so much control, she has so much damage, and I cannot believe they buffed her this patch too. Got Ramashra coming in with the ulti.
Yeah, the Annihilation just popped in the Coalescence to keep him alive there. That is a beautifully executed play. I feel like I'm repeating myself because Thor is just getting everything they want at this point. They're playing so aggro and just keeping CSU in their spawn right now.
Got the swap from Swagmaster going from Moira onto Ana, which is going to be interesting because CSU's team is going to want to be playing a lot more aggressively and brawly, which is going to force Ana to stay behind and maybe get picked off by Rook's Lucio or CS Pharmacy.
Man, that Blizzard was thrown at a perfect time. The wall to aid to stop any potential kills there as well. It's going to be very hard for CSU to try to find something here. It's 80% on the point right now as they are struggling to keep their team alive.
8% sure, but CSU is coming up on ult. We got Blade coming up soon. We have Beat ready. JQ's going to have Rampage ready by the time they get there if they can leave spawn.
But if you're CSU, you gotta move fast. There's 90% on this point, and you're down a couple members. This Lucio has to beat drop or something to get you to point fast. There it's going to be the Lucio beat drop to try to get them to point booped far off the map, and that's going to be the hopes of CSU on the first map gone.
Really efficient stuff there by Thor Ragnarok's team. They got in there super quick, and they established control and dominance, and they had a constant hold on that first point. But it is far from over as we go into our second round. I'm really excited to see what CSU has for us.
I mean, absolutely. As you said, it's far from over. You never judge a book by its cover. You never judge a series by its map one, because this is a time for both teams to try to feel each other out, figure out what they're going to play, and we can see the adaptations are already coming in. But the thing that remains the same, at least for the side of the Thor Vikings, is going to be the Lucio.
Oh yeah, got the Lucio and the Moira still for Thor. But we got the support swaps for CSU. We have Brig and we have Ana. I'm assuming the Brig is going to be trying to pocket the Ana and keeping her alive for as long as possible, especially because Thor's a Tracer. Tracer's going to be in there and she's going to be staring at Ana. She's not going to get a second to breathe. She's going to really have to be careful about using her cooldowns as well because of the fact that there's a Tracer in the lobby.
Yeah, I mean, Thor's comps have one theme, and it is just go in and go fast. And it's just being executed to perfection here. We see the Orisa is going to be picked up from both sides here, and that's going to be interesting because both of them are holding fire on each other, trying to get some lethal damage. But really, without a DPS passive applied there by Cassidy, it's not going to do much. You're trying to look for something here, and Captain Jr. is going to fall first to Lightning Girl as we see Thor now take the driver's seat, pushing everybody off point. And we got to find something here for CSU deciding to reset here instead of drag this out.
Really nice triple kill by Hatter there on the Tracer. That was some really nice stuff. You know, I think Tracer, she's been server adminning at Season 9. Let's be honest. Whenever there's a Tracer, she stomps a lobby. But that still shouldn't take away from the fact that these players are incredibly talented at what they do. There's some really nice stuff there.
I mean, yeah, you can just see how quickly and concise their comms are. Either get in, get out, use ultis or not. They are playing beautifully right now.
Coming up, we're not really coming up on ults yet. Oh, yes, we are for Thor's team. They have Terra Surge, they have Coalescence, they're coming up on Pulse Bomb.
Yeah, you gotta imagine that there's gonna be something here going for CSU. They got a lot of ultimates here. They're trying to look for something. The Coalescence is just, it's so powerful this patch. It is able to shred through the entire health bars of CSU and beautifully clean that point up.
Wow, that's really nice up there. You know, if Thor's team is keeping an eye on ult percentages and ult tracking and whatnot, Tracer is probably going to use the Pulse Bomb and take out a valuable target like Mei because she has Blizzard, or maybe even Lucio because he's not too far away from Beat. He may be at 56%, which sounds like it's far away, but Lucio gets his ult quick. Constant healing, good damage.
You gotta imagine that the Blizzard and the Terra Surge are going to be used simultaneously here to pull a target in. Instead, the Blizzard are going to be used first, and the Terra Surge on the side of Thor going to be used here. The supports are completely cut off from CSU, but that might be the fatal flaw. That might be what CSU needed to get in here. As they capture this point, the Terra Surge being used just to clean up the point. Captain Jr. getting a double kill.
That's a really nice Terra Surge there. Really, you know, established the dominance there with the point. They took back control. They took back control. That's super good, especially because Needy in the bags Lucio is alive. They can't walk over the bridge. They're gonna get booted into the void. We have CPC Jr. on Orisa. There's a spear. They can't go over the bridge. They're going into the void. They have to wrap around this way. That means they have to play into Bog's May, who's just going to be able to pressure the chokehold constantly with the ice beam and the wall.
You're going to have to notice Thor has to go in one motion. They have to go in and click, otherwise they might get hit with the May wall. Being used a little prematurely there, though. No worries. The Coalescence and Beat Drop both going to be used on the side of Thor to just push off this point. It's going to be really hard for anything to happen. And again, just this May wall being so effective, able to keep Thor contained in White Room right now. Their fight is still alive, though, very far from over. We see the Blizzard now being cast out here. It's going to freeze, I believe, one there. It's going to be so hard for anything to happen here, though, but it's going to come in the form of a couple different picks, and that's going to be 4, and a wrap-up on the 5th means that Thor retakes control at this point.
Man, you were doing all the talking, but for some reason I fell out of breath. That fight was going wild. Everybody's pressing Q. Everybody's dying left, right, and center. Super fast-paced stuff here. And, you know, the fact that there's a Moira on both teams, you're going to see a Coalesce pretty much every fight. Constant healing, constant damage. And the fact that she can get it so quick, like, there's going to be no shortage of that ultimate.
You got to move fast here, though. On the side of CSU, the boop is not going to be good. That's going to be lethal. That's going to be the final nail in the coffin as Thor takes map 1 Lijiang.
Really nice boop there from Rook, honestly. Really keeping control. That's the thing with both these teams. Once they get the point, they're really hard to take it away from them. They're sink their teeth deep into it, and they are not willing to let it go to anybody. And here we see the Coalescence again. It's everywhere. It's all the time. It's such a dominant ult, and I never thought that we'd be in a meta where Moira would be a top tier support, honestly. Admittedly, I always thought she was kind of a throw.
It's such a well-deserved pick, and it's so amazing to see her because I think most of my time on Overwatch is spent playing Moira. It's so nice to see her in a good state, and a very well-deserved play of the game there for Lightning Girl on the Moira, able to pilot it so beautifully and almost to perfection, I would say.
You know, on the other end of the spectrum, most of my time playing Overwatch has been yelling at my support to get off of Moira. But hey, you know what? We're in season 9. A lot of things have changed. Moira's really strong. Ball's really strong too, which I'm also not very used to. I always like, oh man, as a tank player, I always clown other Wrecking Ball players because like there is just no reason to. But now he's so good. He's so survivable, and that's a really big part of this season is to have that survivability to just be able to get in, do what you got to do, and get out. That's why Ball's so good. He has the mobility. That's why Moira's so good. She has Fade. Like, that's why a lot of these meta picks are so strong.
Yeah, and I mean, a ball I've been bouncing back and forth, no pun intended, is whether or not meta is truly defined by certain characters, or it's just that certain characters aid each other in ways that fit so well in playstyles that they can be good together. Because I don't think Moira really changed that much from patches. I don't think she's terribly different. But it's the fact Lucio is so good. Lucio is so strong that you're able to play the Moira. And it's honestly just a very early attempt to try to read meta. But I truthfully think that it's the characters that work together in these comps rather than just these strong solo picks.
Honestly, I want to disagree with that. I want to challenge that statement because when this season dropped, Zenyatta had a chokehold on like a third or 3/4 of the tank roster. Just because he had Discord and so much damage, he was able to just like control lobbies. He could do whatever he wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Zenyatta is always a strong pick, though, right? When he's strong, he's strong. When he's weak, he's terrible.
That
And I
is a
mean,
good point.
getting word now that the next map is going to be King's Row, which is it's Reinhardt, right? You think of King's Row, you think of Reinhardt, you think of the shields, you think of the big shatters, the huge plays, the sim TP flanks, stuff like that. But I'm not sure Ryan's too good in this meta either. It's really hard to determine who's good and who's not, especially this early into the season. Especially when you have picks like Ball that look very strong.
I was just about to say, rest in peace, my Reinhardt players. I sympathize with you on a personal level. I'm so sad with the state that he's in because he's so much fun to play, especially on Kings Row. Kings Row's been a personal favorite of mine since I've been playing the game. It's so much fun to hold the corner and hold left click and just get value. But you know who else you can do that with is Ramatra. And Ramatra, I feel like he's kind of a hot topic, I guess. Some people say he's really, really good because he has a lot of pressure and a good amount of damage, but a lot of people say that he's also not great because he has a hitbox the size of a refrigerator. But who knows? Maybe we'll see some.
Now, let me hit you with a weird idea.
Shoot.
Reinhardt is not good in brawl composition, But if you play Reinhardt as a sniper with his fire strikes, he has really strong potential to be good because you got to think about it's now 120 per fire strike, and he gets two of those, which if he hits both on a target, that's 240. And if he hits multiple targets, it's even stronger. So you got to think, can we be playing Reinhardt in a different way and maybe just trying to use his shield as a barrier to keep long-range heroes alive while he himself also tries to snipe at people, and then use the shatter when you want to get really aggro, when you want to get in their face, you know?
You know, I never thought I would have ever heard an argument that Reinhardt should be played as a poke tank. But you know what? Season 9, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and what a time to be alive. Speaking of King's Row, we do have both the tank players on Ramatra. We also have Rook on the Lucio, which is going to be nice for defense. You know, honestly, I kind of went through a character arc here. I always thought Lucio was kind of mid on defense. Like, I always thought you want to play him like super duper aggressively and offensively. But after watching some of these players do their thing, I've started to understand the value of why Lucio can be so good on defense. You have Boop, you have Beat. Two of those are just insane for control and for keeping your team alive, as well as the speed to just reposition everybody. Hell, you have a Ramatra on your team. Because the Lucio is there as well, you're going to be speeding everywhere.
Yeah, Lucio though is I would argue one of the hardest supports in the game to play. It's not something that you can kind of just get value out of like a Baptiste. You can't just spam healing and damage all the time. Lucio, you have to play more carefully. You have to understand the nuanced line of when to use speed and when to use healing. When your team can't escape or can't out heal something, so you have to speed out of it. It's so hard to play, but at this level, I mean, it works so well. You see how insane some of Lucio's stats can get with damage mitigated, damage done, and healing. He's all three, really.
That is true. You know, I'm gonna second that because not only is it hard to play Lucio effectively like that, it's also hard to play with a Lucio effectively because if you're not within his effective radius, you're basically down in support. You have to play around him, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's the thing that you have to be conscious of.
Definitely. I mean, the positioning of the Lucio is there could be PhD studies on this because it's so hard to play around. You got to understand when your Lucio needs to move and when you need to move, and kind of how your entire team is positioned. Every moment, at every moment, you need to realize this is where my team is. This is where my Lucio is. Which one of us needs to move here?
You know, some of the strengths on CSU's team is going to be the Bastion Mercy combo because she is just going to be pocketing the Bastion and doing so much damage. He's going to be in there. He's going to be shredding everybody. That's why Rook on the Lucio is going to be so important. That's exactly why, because he is going to be the only way that Thor's team is going to be able to reposition and get out of the line of fire. Sure, you have Ramacha's shield, but you have that for like, what, a second and a half until it gets shredded?
These teams not too interested in how the Bastion's going to play, instead opting to just go fist to fist as Ramattra, both Nemesis forms popped very quickly into this fight, and we should see both teams try to retreat and try to regain this Nemesis form before going in.
There's definitely a cult-like bro code between mirroring tag matchups. Oh, that was a really nice grenade snipe by Bog.
But maybe you don't need to wait for this Annihilation form. Maybe instead you just need your Bastion to get really good sticks there on the grenade. But the issue is you're down so much cooldowns here as CSU. You're down your Immortality field. Really all you're playing for is your Bastion to find a pick, which he does, ripping and tearing until he's done. Finds a two-piece. Looking for more. The turret form gone now, but that doesn't seem to matter too much. Finds a third here with the grenade, as we just see Thor backing up Captain Jr., finding a fourth. The last one going to be a soldier and tracked down in the streets.
Run away, run for your life! CSU's behind you, man! I'm actually admittedly surprised that CSU got there that quickly. Not because of the players or anything, but it's really because they don't have a Lucio. I was surprised that they were able to just walk in there and take the point. I guess it really is just Bog and Swagmaster, the dynamic duo of this matchup. That's not to discredit the Sojourn and the Baptiste on Thor's team. I'm curious to see what happens once some ult's getting popped, because Railgun through window is going to decimate literally anybody.
Yeah, and look at just how beautifully timed both of these teams are. There's a yin and yang, a push and pull to how they're moving, and it's all around this Baptiste, Bastion. He is just controlling this match And the worst thing you can feel, CVS Pharmacy popping the Annihilation and just having to hold arms, but that's unfortunately how it is in Season 9. Captain Junior is going in now, positioning very aggressively the overclock to try to push them even farther back. We're going to see Thor get aggressive here. Going to try to find something with the overclock. Finds one there onto Swag Master.
It's almost like each team is trying to one-up each other's aggression, man. CSU came in, they took that point super quick with the Bastion, and then you have Fresh Crew and the Sojourn like, nah, what's this? She slides in with overclock, and down goes CSU.
Yeah, the hyper aggression from both of these teams is something to note. Just how in each other's face they are with these Ramattra comps, and the Lucio, it facilitates it so much. And the Mercy damage boost is just adding a higher level onto this. Another stake, another variable to consider. And now we see the window coming out really early here. The Deadeye going to be popped just in front of it. Hatter going to strike down Nebby there. And we're going to see Thor just push back CSU into their spawns.
So bad. I feel so bad for CPT Junior on the Ramattra. I saw that 2 HP, the hold in the block, the panic. I understand exactly how that feels. It is not a good feeling. But, you know, there's still a lot of time left. They got 3 minutes on the clock, and there's a lot of time and ults for a play to be made on CSU's part. You have Annihilation, you have Railgun, you have Window. There's a lot of options, and there's a lot of ways they can play this. Like Sojourn come around the right side with the overclock.
Yeah, Ramattra there instantly, though, to try to shut this down, but it might just be too much damage. CVS might have overstepped. The beat drop going to have to be used there to protect the Ramattra from dying. Now we see, though, the full health Ramattra with Annihilation. It looks really tempting from this angle to get something going, and you have to imagine it's going to be popped. Here it is. The Immortality Field expended, and we see the health bars drop so low. CVS Pharmacy, the Ramattra that falls here. The opposite Annihilation going to get value here as we see the arms come up again. And Swag Master getting on the action as the Mercy looking for a double. Can they get it? You know, Bog does take it. But a beautiful play nonetheless from CSU.
Swag Master, I know 100%. The only thing going through your mind was blood, rage. My girlfriend's a Mercy player. Whenever she whips out the Glock, she's going crazy. It's always kind of fun to see in cast part too. You know, I love it when Mercy players take matters to their own hands. And you know, CSU's got artillery as well, keeping Thor back. We'll see if they get some value with this.
All three going to be spent onto the support there. Unfortunately, not getting anything. I think the Immortality Field might have been extended, though. We see a Widowmaker adaptation from Hatter now instead of the Cassidy there. That's definitely interesting. I believe it's the idea to try to shut down these over-aggressive squishies here. We see the Mercy now having to watch the flight patterns so carefully. Window going to be expended on point to heal up the Ramattra, although most of Thor here is just going to LOS it.
I feel like Cass would be better at shutting down the over-aggressive squishies, especially because you have the hindrance. I really thought that he was going to be looking at Mercy more. I'm admittedly surprised with the Widow spot, but again, it's not a bad one.
Yeah, the overclock now going to be popped here on the side of Thor, getting so much value. Nobody able to contest, getting a double kill here, looking for more, a triple there for Fresh Crew. As we look for the fourth, trying to find something, just staggering the Ramattra instead.
Somebody stop this man. Holy moly. He's hitting some really nice overclocks. I'm very envious because I could not, man. There's something about it. I guess it's just a flow state kind of thing. But she was in there and she really was able to take back the fight on this one. It gives Ragnarok Thor another fighting chance. We got Rook with the beat. We got CVS Farms coming up on Annihilation. These are two ults that absolutely have the potential to stall us out for another 2 minutes. It's just a matter of how they're going to be used.
I mean, I think you nailed it right on the head there. The support ultimates are going to be the most important factor in this matchup. Trying to keep this Ramattra alive, but maybe you should have been focusing on the Soldier and instead going to follow there. As now Cleveland is in the driver's seat here with the overclock, with the Soldier, and is able to get so active here. Bog going to be the first one to press down the ultimate, just clearing the pathway of the cart, is going to elicit the beat drop as a response. And we see CVS getting a little bit active here with the Annihilation. Pop the Immortality Field already expended, but falling really, really low. Captain Junior's Annihilation going to take over instead. Now we're just looking at the sports here. Has to back up though because they were getting a little too aggressive there. The health bar is really low. And now we have a battle between the Soldier and Eric with the overclock though is going to be the one to take down the other. Now we see it's got to be a touch here, but there is none. We do see a 1 minute and 7 second capture there.
That was really, really high octane brutal fighting there. You know, uh, which one was the blue team again? That was Thor, right? They were kind of backed into a bit of a corner. They had Annihilation and they had beat, and that was it. CSU had a lot more ults than them, and they had to use those. Thor had to use their ults a lot more sparingly and greedily, and that's a big part of why they lost that final fight because they had to use them, but they just got outnumbered by the amount of ults.
I think you're right. I think we gotta notice the yin and yang of these teams, the push and pull, as I said before, about how aggressive they get and how much ultimates they expend on the attack. And then when they're on the defense, when they're on the back foot, they have nothing but support ultimates to use, and how that affects their game plan and strategy. Especially because it's amplified by the Bastion. The turret form creates so much value, but when Bastion's out of it, the value goes straight back to nothing. You essentially have a DPS, which is a little bit weaker than normal, but you got to notice how these teams interact with each other, how aggressive they get, how they ramp from 0 to 100 back to 0, and just how fluently they're able to play with each other and trust their teammates to get the job done.
You know, speaking of Bastion, it looks like Fresh wants a piece of the pie, locking in Bastion for this first point. I think it's going to be a really big influencer here, both Bastions, on how they use their cooldowns here. It's a matter of waiting. That's a big, big piece of it. It's waiting for the tank to overextend just enough where you can get the full value out of your turret. And here we see it with Fresh coming around with the flank.
Yeah, the main wall actually going to limit the Bastion's line of sight, but it doesn't really matter because it drops anyways. The Mercy does get the res up on the Bog, which means the turret form will be active for another fight. And there it goes. It is ripping through the Mei wall as the Orisa here has to use the spin to try to push it off. We see Thor grouping up in this hotel to try to stop something, but the Lucio might be caught out here. The Lucio's falling awfully low, going to live there, and now the turret form getting a lot of value. Orisa's spear spin straight out of the immortality field. As we see now, Thor is going to be striking first in this match, capturing the first point.
Ruthless triple kill by CVS Pharmacy on the Orisa there. That was some gnarly stuff, man. Oh, the poor Mercy gets stapled to the wall and the headshot. That is... Oh, never wanted to air! Oh, it just keeps coming! She's a murderer! Oh my god, going back to the Bastions, man. I think Thor's team has a lot more resources to deal with CSU's Bastion than CSU has resources to deal with Thor's Bastion, right? Looking at Thor's team, they have speed to get out of the way, they'll have beat eventually, Baptiste has immortality, Orisa has spear spin, Mei has wall and ice cube, even Bastion can fire back.
Bog getting a beautiful double
nice
kill there in the Bastion, looking for more with the turret form. The Valkyrie is going to be popped in response to aid the Bastion on the attack, but it might be too little too late, as Thor was already backing out of that fight. Now the Valk is going to have to try to get some value here. The Glock being pulled out, getting a little too aggressive. Fresh Crew going to shut that down, and now we see Fresh pop the ultimate themselves. The Bastion ulti used, not going to find a kill there, but it's enough damage to warrant a couple different things. The Terror Surge being used, but Bog's trying to get down before anything can happen. But if you're Thor, you're happy here. You're up a couple of different picks, and it's mostly on the back foot here for CSU. They're trying to live through this. Unfortunately, Fresh is just too good on the Bastion, going to shut that down.
You know, I was going to say, I'm kind of curious about the CPT Junior picking Zarya into this. On one hand, I understand that it just shuts down Orisa, but on the other hand, you have Bastion in the lobby. It's, sure, you can block the damage for a little bit, but he's going to burst your bubble, and he's going to blow you to bits. That being said, Zarya does have a lot of synergies with their team right now, especially with Grav being able to clump up everybody for Bastion ult or for Sojourn ult.
I think the idea is to stop this Blizzard. Man, that is a shooting gallery there for Thor, as CVS Pharmacy finds 3 there. Fresh getting 2, makes 5 kills, and that's a team wipe for Thor.
That's another triple kill by CVS Pharmacy. One more, we'll get a hat trick. Yeah, that'd be crazy, especially in the same map. You know, Baptiste having the ability to reposition up here onto the high ground is also going to be kind of annoying for CSU to deal with. If he's able to just look at the Lucio or ults and pocket the Bastion, that's going to be great for Thor.
I mean, yeah, this is really good for Thor still. Don't get me wrong, the Bastion was pushed off high ground, so the window didn't have much effect, but that is still really good for them. They shred through most of CSU's health bars there, although the healing this season is just so much, but it doesn't matter because Soldier's going to shut it down. Air's going to be the first to fall there. As we see now, Cleveland getting aggressive. They're trying to find something. The window going to be used in the Immortality Field expended. Captain Jr. still falls here. The Bastion ulti just to keep this aggression going. Going to shut down everybody. This is a dire situation here for CSU trying to find something because there's 4 minutes on the clock. You want to burn some more this time, but it's going to capture Thor up 3 minutes in the bank.
You know, that fight, it was fast, but it was closer than it looked because Thor, it was CVS Pharmacy on the tank. If they extended just a little bit more, they would have gotten caught up by the window, they would have blown up, and they would have died. That would have been the fight. They would have been on for, who knows, maybe another 2-3 minutes. The fact that they played back and went for the med pack and they didn't overextend was a big part of why they were able to win that fight.
Yeah, with this aggression, there has to be some way to throttle it. There has to be some way to pull back on the reins and say, no, we just need to wait. Because you got to notice how quickly these teams are burning through cooldowns, especially aggressive ones. These Bastion turret forms being used in the first couple of seconds in the fight means that you really got to wait and you really got to limit yourself on how far you want to push without it. Because it's such a crucial tool to most of these team comps here.
You know, that is the thing with both of these teams, is that they're playing very fast, but they're also playing patiently at the same time. They're using a lot of cooldowns, but they're using them wisely. They're using them smartly, and they're using them with a purpose. And I think there's something to be said for that. It's important because cooldowns are so important in this game, especially with the players they have in the lobby. You have Amp with Lucio, you have Turret and Bastion. That's like where all his damage comes from. The fact that they're able to utilize them so effectively is what's making this a really interesting match for me at the very least.
I could not think of a better way to describe that myself because these players are just so ready to go, but they have to be able to manage their cooldowns as well, and I think they're doing that to perfect effect. We see the Lucio speed amp now here, going straight onto Thor, trying to put some pressure on there. We see the main wall coming out to get the Oriza, but the target focus is split. We're looking at two different targets here. The main wall down now too. We got to notice these aggressive cooldowns being used. They need to kind of pull back on the reins here. The Soldier has a fully charged right click, ready to fire. Captain Jr. now falling awfully low as they look for the supports here. The Soldier, though, is just going to be the key difference here. The Soldier is able to rain down fire uncontested from high ground, and that's going to push CSU off, and that means their time bank is down to 20 seconds.
Wow, like I'm with the Sojourn plays, man. If she wasn't up there on the high ground, I guarantee you that CSU would have had that 100%. They were in there, they took Thor by surprise, and they were starting to get some value, but then Sojourn pulled up, man.
Yeah, that and the Immortality Field was already used for CSU to try to not stagger their players. They got to be careful with this now because they won't have it for another 10 seconds in overtime. But it's looking good for them. Hatter's going to find a pick. Fresh Crew getting in the action now too, as Thor makes their reemergence onto point, trying to find something desperately here. The window and Terror Surge being used means Captain Jr. is going to fall awfully low, and the last one's going to be the Tracer here. Air trying to find something in overtime as the wick burns down. Thor successfully shuts down CSU's touches.
Wow, man, CSU had so much coverage that whole freaking minute. They had eyes everywhere, especially with the Sojourn on that high ground there. Nobody could easily contest her. She was able to just run with that. She could do whatever she wanted. She had the high ground on every single person on their team. And it's just unfortunate for them. Like, how do you even deal with that? Unless you're like Pharah, maybe. That's kind of it.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can deal with that in the 1 minute time bank you have. There's so many variables to consider that you have to adapt to in that split second and make those right or wrong calls. And especially in a high tense situation where you're playing for the second map and you're playing to even out the score, you can't really make those calls in right mind. Because you have to account for the Soldier on high ground. You have to account for the Terror Surge that is being built. You have to account for the supports that are able to peel so effectively for their entire front line. There's too many variables to consider.
I have a question for you. Are those two Magas? Do my eyes deceive me? Are those two Magas? I don't think I've had the pleasure of casting a match with a Maga in it. I've only heard how terrible and how unvaluable of a tank he is. I am thrilled to be here. Oh man, this is gonna be exciting.
I mean, 4 minutes on the clock means you got some time to experiment. Both teams walking out in the Maga is a really good tank, as now he gets 100 extra overclock just for pressing E. The anti-nade, though, already going to show its value, because it's able to shut down the Maga E entirely, meaning he has to survive alone. And we just see him being burned. Fresh Crew going to be the killing blow there. The Maywall is beautifully used to protect the resurrection there. and now the Moga's back in the game, but it doesn't really matter because Hatter's shutting down air, and Hatter's also just getting value on this backline, being able to fly around the map so effectively on Genji, might I add, the double jumps being so effective, as we're going to see Captain Junior fall here again, which means that Hatter's just unleashed onto the backline and the supports. Capture's being done. It only needs about one more second of ticks, and that's going to be it. Thor going to take your second map, leading it 2-0.
Wow, that was super duper speedy, man. Especially with Hatter in the back line there. Nobody was really looking at him except for the Mei, albeit that's kind of her job, being that she counters Genji and all that. But he was in there and he was putting in a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the stream. We are going into the third match, which is going to be Dorado. Right now, we have Thor leading with a 2-0 advantage over CSU. But honestly, I think the night's far from over. I think there's a lot of potential for a really big turnaround, especially on a map like Dorado. If you're playing your comfort picks on a map like this, especially if your comfort pick is like a Sigma or a Winston or a Diva or something like that, there's a lot of chance for some pretty seesaw fights, and I'm curious to see where this goes. And personally, I'm kind of a Dorado hater. I just, even though I'm a Sigma player, I can't stomach it because I feel like every time I get dove and I get stomped, and that's just the way that it is. But who knows? Maybe these players will be better at dealing with dive than I will in my platinum games.
I mean, how can you hate this map? Just look at how beautiful it is. This sunset, the beautiful, lovely colors, ignoring the sun fadedness of some of these buildings. The music, all of it is so lively. And for an Overwatch map as well, for a map where you're not even focused on the environment, where you can see the beautiful hills in the background, this is one of my favorite maps. This is beautiful.
Just say you're a nerd, man. It's okay. No, I'm just messing with you. It is very visually appealing map. I just don't like to lose, and that happens a lot on Dorado. I'm sorry. Maybe if I was better at the game, I'd like the map more, but that's just not the case. Uh, Looking at the team composition, both teams do have a Winston, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. Winston's just he's a goofy guy. He's a giant monkey, man. Like what's not to love? There's a lot of really interesting things with Winston, ranging from his quick burst engage combo to juggling with Primal. And I'm really hoping that both players stick with Winston throughout the duration of this, because I really want to see some impressive juggles, especially with Lightning Girl for Thor's team. With the Nano, you get Nano Primal, it's going to be ruthless.
You gotta be careful up here on this high ground. That there's a Sombra, there's an Echo. You can just be shut down so quickly. And there's no real contest here from Thor, as they're just going to push past. The monkey now has to drop down, which is going to be a little dangerous here because, I mean, there's so much damage, to be completely honest. There's so much damage, there's so much shred, especially on this Echo, just able to burst somebody down if they played a little bit too out of position.
You know, speaking of the Echo, Thor's team has a lot of resources to deal with that. They have Ash to snipe them down, they have Honor to snipe them down, and they have Brig to protect the two of them too. If Brig is really smart about her positioning and when to step forward and block some shots or not, I think that's going to be Thor's strength, especially for this first choke.
I think you're right on the money there, as now we see the Winston going very aggressive here, trying to get some damage done onto the Mercy. Both of these Winstons, though, are just not focusing each other. They're both diving on each other. The Pulse Bomb's going to drop Captain Jr. very low, though, and that's going to be the first pick of the match. Lightning Girl and Hatter teaming up there to take down two Swag Masters. Going to get the res in Valk form, but Fresh Chew is going to eliminate the rest of the fight.
You know, I got a grudge against Mercy players. Well, not players, but just the character in general, because you put so many resources and so much time to killing a character, let alone the tank, and then she's like, no, I'm gonna press E and completely erase your progress. But I guess it doesn't matter because Hatter's on the team, taking down both of them, and Sombra! One for the road. Maybe she gets Echo along the way too. Yep, 4-for-1 combo there.
Hatter just demonstrating why Tracer is arguably the best DPS this season, able to play it so perfectly, honestly.
She's just a character with an infinite skill ceiling, man. I feel like I'm watching Dragon Ball, where she's just like flipping around, like she's like she's killing everybody, man. It's I love and understand Tracer players. I don't know how they do it. It's too complicated for me. I'll just stick with Soldier and just play Call of Duty.
And that's certainly a strategy. Air is going to drop the Winston very low, but nothing that Winston can't just jump out of the range for. There's ideas here to duplicate, but mostly Thor is just controlling this high ground really well and shutting down any ideas. This Ash Cowboy Bebop skin is just OP, to be honest.
Oh yeah, don't forget everybody. If you pay money, it gives you big buffs, a lot more damage, a lot more healing.
Do that.
Oh, it does. I can confirm. I'm watching it live right now. You can't lie to me.
And we see a Diva here on the high ground, now going to be responsed by a Bob, and Diva pushed into the corner with a coach gun. That's really aggressive there. That's your only cooldown to get out. We see the Diva demeched by a beautiful shot there from Ash. And again, Thor just controlling this high ground, knowing their own limits, throwing the Bob when things get dicey, and coach gunning away.
You know, Fresh Crew had to play aggressive there because it was the kind of thing, it's the flight or flight, you know, when you're backed into a corner with the Diva in your face, you gotta whip out the coach gun. You gotta call in Bob, and it gets the job done.
Pulse Bomb getting free there for Hatter. That is a beautiful bomb. And there wasn't even an immortality field ready. It was just so quick there.
And that's not. Thor still has 3 ults to work with, man. I mean, Rook's still coming up on rally, but let's be honest, he's gonna get in 2 seconds, especially with the way that he's been playing, pocketing the damage players.
Look at how aggressive Thor gets, and just, I mean, truthfully, look at how aggressive they're getting. They're in the spawn of CSU here, and just stopping them from getting anything. The pace of the game is too fast. CSU needs to sit back a little and let the tempo slow. But, I mean, doing the opposite of slow now, the rush coming out here is going to move the cart, but really it's not going to provide much value. Most of Thor is going to be sitting on this high ground, although we do see Nebby getting a pick onto Hatter, which is a very big pick if you've seen anything Hatter's done in the past 2 minutes.
I'd be surprised if you haven't seen anything Hatter's done, because he's all we've been talking about. This man is going crazy. We got D.Va diving in on the Winston, which is going to spell a lot of trouble for Winston, just because, you know, D.Va exists and she has 2 shotguns.
Oh!
It's that. And a really nice fuck from CPT Jr.
The bomb, EMP, what a deadly combo. And the thing is, they waited so late on the EMP too. It wasn't a second earlier than it needed to be. It was at the perfect time to lure Thor into a false sense of security and then throw it. Although, the false sense of security might be on the side of CSU, as we see a Nano Winston jumping into the backline. Having to jump out, though, because there's just so much raw damage on the side of CSU. The rally now coming out here as Captain Jr. does find one on CBS. It's going to be really hard without a tank to find something. But hey, maybe the tank comes in the form of Brigitte in the rally ultimate. They're trying to find something, but with the Brigitte falling, there's 3 on point. The tides have completely turned. Captain Jr. in Baby D.Va form is the last hope to try to get this checkpoint. 0.03 meters, and that's going to be it. Thor going to shut down CSU before they can get to the first point.
That was really crazy, man. That was a super seesawy fight. I think a big player in there was Hatter once again. He was in the back line of CSU, and he was beaming them down, and nobody was really looking at him. He was playing around the fountain. He was playing LOS really, really well, and he was able to get so much damage out pretty much for free. All they had was Brig there to tank, and I cannot think of a better way to use that ultimate effectively. That was, like, she filled the role as a tank perfectly, and that was some really nice stuff there.
You talk about effective ultimates, and I'm going to tell you that EMP bomb there was the most effective combo I've seen. And I've seen it a lot, right? You think about it. You notice the compositions. You notice the bomb. You notice the Sombra. You notice that they're posturing for it. But it never really clicks until you hear the Sombra shout her alt voice line. And then you're like, oh, that's why they bombed early.
Stay sharp. It's harder to keep you alive.
Oh man, CVS Pharmacy working out the Doomfist. I swear to God, Doomfist is in my nightmares, man. I wake up in a cold sweat and all I can hear is Indisi, Indisi, Indisi. But I gotta hand it to Doomfist players, man. They must spend an egregious amount of time in the Doomfist parkour custom maps, because what these players can do is some top-notch stuff. And I think if he's able to play around Bastion's artillery and around Sigma's rock, then it's gonna be really problematic for CSU. They need to be careful with their cooldowns, and it is no exception. You have Thor taking the flank high ground.
Yeah, Thor TPing Coast isn't something I've seen before, but I mean, I'm all for creativity here in this season. Whoa, that triple pulse bomb, nearly getting the stick there. You gotta be careful though, as we see now, CSU has picked up the Zenyatta.
Oh yeah, not only the Zenyatta, but the Bastion's going to be an issue for Echo. Yeah, as you saw earlier, they were looking at her, and she got really close. But the fact that Echo was just able to burst down Zenyatta that quickly, that opens up a really great window of opportunity for Doomfist to dive in and just get his hands dirty.
Yeah, which is exactly what he's doing now, but maybe getting too aggressive, as there's just so much damage on the side of CSU, and so much of it's being amplified as well through the Orb of Discord.
This is a really interesting play here. I want to talk about Rook and Lightning Girl, because they're playing on the coast high ground, and it's working really quite well, and I haven't seen this before. Lightning Girl is poking down the hallway, and Rook is pocketing her. Like, you just have an Ana constantly looking at the sight line, and there's very little you can do with it, especially with the Doomfist diving on top of your backline, albeit getting picked for the second time now, but pressure is still pressure, and that's, like, you can't ignore it.
You can't. There's no way you can, especially when Hatter's on this Echo. We're definitely going to be looking for a duplication target in the right moment here, which is going to come a bit later than I thought it was going to be. But you got to notice that the cart keeps moving. There's 2 minutes 29, and they're already halfway to the checkpoint that they need to be at. The Bastion falling awfully low. The focusing beam going to shred down 2 here, As we see CSU on the back foot now, they need to find something. If that comes in the form of an ultimate or not, they don't have any to spend. The duplication is going to come out onto the Sojourn, which means that Thor is going to be able to effectively ward off the rest of CSU, and the cart just moves too fast for them to get a touch. The Coalescence popped in desperation, the Fade, but nothing's going to touch. That means Thor has ended this series as a 3-0.
Some really nice stuff there from both teams. All these fights have been seesawy, a power struggle throughout the whole match, but Thor is really able to just sink their teeth in and really get their hands dirty. And overall, it was just a really fun match to watch. Really effective ult cooldown usage, as well as regular cooldown usage. And not to mention the triple kill from Hatter's pulse bomb.
It's just beautiful. I mean, as nerdy as I sound saying that this is what we cast for, this is what we watch for, it is. These teams played so well, and you got to notice how just beautifully synergized they are, and especially how bright some of these players shined in their own rights. You see Hatter with these beautiful kills. You see CVS getting active on the tank. Everybody getting active. You even see Mercy joining the fun there with the Glock. Everybody is just playing so well together and knowing each other's limits. It's truly a display of talent.
There's some really impressive flank plays there as well. A lot of their DPS players on both sides were in the back line, and they're putting a lot of pressure on them. We are going to go on a quick break. We'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes with some more content for you. Maybe we'll see you guys soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so very much for waiting. And accompanied with Jay and I is the support player Rook. He had some really impressive plays with Lucio and with Brig throughout these couple of games, and we are super stoked to get to ask you some questions, man.
Glad to be here. Thank you all for having me. Different team, but the same face.
I mean, so first question, immediately diving into it, is it's a really hard question to answer because there's so much nuance to it. But do you think Lucio's a necessity this patch for team comps? I mean, you didn't play it on Dorado, but we saw how much of a staple it was through the rest of the series.
I mean, the joke that I always make when it comes to my team is like, all right, guys, time to play the green hero. And that's kind of how I feel about it as a whole. I mean, it's 80-90% necessary, but there's so much nuance with the kit, and it really depends on what tank you're playing it with. It just changes your playstyle relatively drastically. So I probably a necessity, honestly. Just because the meta is so in flux, the one thing that stays the same, and we all know it, especially in North America, is that the Russian brawl characters go burr, and we got to run at them. So, when in
I mean,
doubt, 3, 2, 1.
I totally agree with that. It's so strong, and the Lucio is just so good this patch.
It is some really impressive stuff because I'll go on YouTube, I'll watch a Frogger video, and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm him." I'll hop in a game and I'll throw. So it's impressive. There's something to be said for that, man. Lucio's hard to play. But aside from Lucio, I want to talk to you about Brig actually because you were playing her on Dorado, and you were playing her like in a more traditional manner, especially for the first point where you guys were on defense, where you were pocketing the Ashe and the Ana. I've seen that before. What I haven't seen is when you guys were on offense, you took a TP to the coastline stairs and you were pocketing the Ana on the high ground there. I've never seen an Ana and a Brig play there before. And I'm impressed. I can see why it works. You guys demonstrated why it works very well in the game you just played, and I want to talk to you about that. Like, what's the thought process there? Where'd you guys brew up that idea?
I mean, it's an old thing. I feel like a lot of people have forgotten some fundamentals from OW1. Because normally you'd need the off tank to go up there, you'd need some diva, you'd need some support. We're kind of, it's a little bit of a prage because we're kind of hoping there isn't an echo ready to sticky us all and, 50% ult charge and 5 people die. But, fortunately no echo. And yeah, I mean, it just allows us to play a lot more threatening. It's a little bit easier to eat or dodge a nade if it's coming from downtown as opposed to right up in your face. We have the tracer push cart. Pretty simple, right? Echo Doom go when they can, and as we figured it out, right, as soon as we get picks, right, like on the defense, we lost one, right? We lost our tracer, but that didn't matter because we still had control of high ground. They lost 2 people, and our R3 just instantly pushed over to the high ground. Take that. Once we take that position, it is very, very difficult for the enemy team to kind of dispossess. So,
That's some pretty good stuff, man. As well done, well done. Very good plays with the Brigitte. And
You got any closing comments, any shots, any concerns, anything to share with anybody?
just kind of be happy to doing this with a new team. For those of you who know me, I have been playing and slash managing permafrost teams for a very, very long time. I decided to take a break from managing, and a break from Overwatch lasted about 2 months, or honestly 6 weeks, before I said I'm gonna trial, I'm gonna play, and I'm really, really lucky to kind of have found a team that lets me lead, sets me up on my feet. So I'm kind of very happy to just be playing again. I do 2 shots today. Obviously the whole team doing everything amazingly. But Lightning Girl and Fresh Chew, aka Brandon, this was their first matches in Overwatch ever. So, they've played the rat race of competitive, had to run this with quick play. But this was their first time actually playing in a map as a team.